Sometimes the more you try to get someone's attention, the more invisible you become. You text her more, she replies less. You try to show you care, she starts acting like you're replaceable. And deep down, you wonder, why is it that the men she thinks about the most are not the ones chasing, but the ones who seem unbothered? The truth is painful. Neediness pushes people away, but strength pulls them in. And today we're going to talk about how to make a woman think about you without a single text. Not through manipulation, but through presence, restraint, and inner power. Before we dive in, make sure you like and subscribe if you want more Stoic-based wisdom to help you stay grounded, disciplined, and untouchable in your everyday life. Number 1. Become a man who doesn't need her attention. Most men make the mistake of thinking attention equals affection. They assume that if they constantly appear in her phone, she'll eventually notice them. But in reality, the opposite happens. When someone feels your energy grasping for their approval, they instinctively distance themselves. This is a natural human reaction, not just in dating, but in life. Stoicism teaches that a man who needs nothing becomes magnetic because people can sense when you're centered and not depending on them for validation. The first step to making her think about you without texting is to stop craving a response. This doesn't mean acting cold or pretending to not care. It means genuinely shifting your emotional center back to yourself. When you focus on your purpose, your routines, your growth, your energy becomes stronger. Women notice this shift even without communication. They feel it. Your silence stops being emptiness and becomes authority. Every man has experienced that moment when he pulled away just a little, and suddenly she became curious. That curiosity doesn't come from games. It comes from her sensing that your world doesn't collapse without her. When you detach from the outcome and stop chasing her attention, you create mental space in her mind. She starts thinking, what's he doing? Why isn't he texting? Did he lose interest? Or is he simply too focused to bother? The Stoics believe that a man should never let another person control his peace. And when you stop letting her reactions determine your worth, you shift from a reactive man to a centered one. That shift alone is enough to make her think about you. Because true independence is rare, and rarity attracts attention without effort. Becoming the man who doesn't need her attention doesn't push her away. It frees her to come toward you. And she will, when she feels your calm confidence instead of your anxiety. Number 2, build a presence that echoes in her mind. You don't need constant communication to leave a mark. People remember how you make them feel, not how often you text. And the strongest presence is built through quiet strength, consistency, and the way you carry yourself. When a woman thinks about you without seeing your name on her phone, it's because something about you impressed her deeply enough to linger. Presence is created through character. When you stick to your word, move with intention, and operate from self-respect, people notice. Women especially notice. Why? Because most men today are unpredictable, emotionally chaotic, or easily swayed by their feelings. So when a man appears who moves calmly, speaks deliberately, and stays composed under pressure, he stands out and becomes unforgettable. Silent presence is also powerful. Stoics rarely spoke unless necessary. They believed words should serve a purpose, not fill space. When you say less, your words become heavier. She'll replay small things you said, subtle looks you gave, moments when you weren't trying to impress her, yet left an impression. She'll think about the times you showed discipline or the strength you carried without showing off. These memories echo. Women think deeply. They analyze energy. They attach meaning to moments. If you gave her a glimpse of maturity, stability, or emotional control, she will replay it long after you've gone quiet. Not texting doesn't remove you from her mind. It amplifies the parts of you that already made an impact. To build presence, you don't need to chase. You need to embody. When you embody purpose and principle, you stop being a moment in her life and become a standard. And standards aren't forgotten. Number 3, master the power of absence. Most men fear silence. They fear that if they don't text, she'll forget them. But reality works differently. People remember those who give them space to feel their absence. Absence is not emptiness. It's a force that creates curiosity, reflection, and even desire. When you step back, you give her room to think. And in that room, she starts to wonder about you. Absence becomes powerful when it's intentional. You're not disappearing to punish her. You're not ignoring her to look mysterious. You're simply living your life without using your phone as a lifeline. Your focus shifts to your own growth, and your silence becomes a reflection of your discipline, not a cry for attention. And women respect discipline. It shows self-control. Think about the times you miss someone the most. It wasn't when they were constantly messaging you. It was when you didn't have access to them, when they weren't seeking your attention, when they weren't trying to impress you. Their absence created a space your mind naturally filled. Humans crave what they can't constantly reach. When a woman sees that you're not always available, she starts evaluating your value. She wonders what you're focused on. She wonders who else is getting your time. She wonders whether you're emotionally independent or simply slipping away. These questions make her think more about you than any text could. Stoicism teaches negative visualization, imagining the loss of something to appreciate it. In relationships, absence performs the same function. When you're not constantly present, she can finally feel what it's like not having you. That's when she realizes whether she misses you. That's when she notices your worth. The man who isn't always there becomes the man she thinks about. Not because he's playing hard to get, but because his absence speaks louder than needy communication ever could. Number 4, elevate yourself until she has no choice but to notice. You don't make a woman think about you by waiting around for her attention. You do it by becoming so focused, so disciplined, and so committed to your own improvement that she feels your growth without you saying a word. Self-elevation is the most natural form of attraction. People think about those who inspire them. People remember those who rise. When you stop texting and start building, everything changes. You become more interesting. You become more valuable. You become more respected. Women don't think about men who chase them. They think about men who chase purpose, challenge themselves, and stay dedicated to improvement. It's magnetic energy, the energy of someone who doesn't settle. The Stoics believe that a man's strength comes from controlling what he can control, his character, behavior, and growth. When you pour your energy into your body, your skills, your discipline, your work, your mind begins to sharpen. And as you improve, something subtle happens. Your silence becomes expensive. It becomes meaningful. It becomes something she notices. Self-elevation also changes how you see yourself. When you develop your potential, you stop viewing her attention as a reward and start viewing it as a bonus. That shift alone skyrockets your attractiveness. A man who sees himself as valuable naturally becomes more valuable in the eyes of others. And here's the truth. When she sees your life expanding without her involvement, she will think about you. When she sees your confidence rising, she will think about you. When she sees that you're not sitting around waiting for her affection, she will think about you. A man who elevates himself forces the world, including her, to take notice. Number 5, hold your emotional ground like a Stoic. Most men lose a woman's interest not because they lack good qualities, but because they lose emotional control. They overthink, panic, text too much, or try too hard. When you hold your emotional ground, you separate yourself from the majority. Emotional stability is rare, and anything rare becomes valuable. Stoicism teaches that your emotions are your responsibility. You cannot control how she feels, what she does, or whether she thinks about you. But you can control your reactions, your choices, and your energy. When you don't text her, the goal is not to punish her or pretend you don't care. The goal is to remain centered and calm, regardless of the outcome. Emotional grounding means you don't act from fear. You don't chase because she takes long to reply. You don't double text because you feel insecure. You don't try to force her attention. You stay still, composed, and steady. And this steadiness is what makes her think about you. Women trust men who are emotionally grounded. They admire them. They feel safe around them. When you stay calm, she starts to sense your maturity. She feels your quiet strength. She realizes you're not like other men who crumble under emotional pressure. And that realization makes her rethink your value. It makes her curious. It makes her reflect on your presence, even when you're not communicating. The man who masters his emotions becomes unpredictable in the best way. Not chaotic, not confusing, simply impossible to manipulate. And the moment she realizes she cannot shake you is the moment she begins to think about you without effort. The Stoic man knows that true power is not in making someone think about him, but in becoming the kind of man people cannot forget. Number 6. Become a man whose life moves forward without pause. A woman thinks about a man when his life clearly moves forward with or without her. Most men hit pause the moment they like someone. Their routines fall apart, their discipline weakens, and their focus scatters. Subconsciously, they send a message: you matter more than my purpose. But the Stoics understood something powerful. A man who allows external things to interrupt his mission loses a piece of himself. When your life continues at full speed, she notices. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because momentum has a gravitational pull. Moving forward doesn't mean pretending to be busy. It means genuinely filling your life with things that strengthen you. Work on your body, sharpen your mind, build your financial stability, learn new skills, improve your environment. When your life is in motion, you give her something to admire. Women naturally think about men who embody progress. Progress subconsciously signals strength. It signals reliability. It signals leadership. The reason a progressing man stays on a woman's mind is simple. Progress is rare. Most people complain, but never grow. They dream, but never act. They want results, but avoid discipline. When she meets a man who improves consistently, not dramatically, but steadily, she remembers him. She replays the way he talked about his goals. She recalls how serious he was about rising. She imagines who he might become in a few years. And here's the subtle part. When you stop texting while your life keeps advancing, your silence becomes intriguing instead of worrying. She wonders if you're leveling up. She wonders if you're achieving something meaningful. She wonders if you've stepped into a higher version of yourself. Her mind starts to chase the possibilities. Stoicism teaches that progress is a personal duty. You don't grow to impress someone else. You grow because nature demands excellence from those who dare to live intentionally. When you become a man who cannot be slowed down, she can't help but think about you, because your movement creates an energy that fills the quiet spaces you leave behind. Number 7, project an aura of emotional security. A woman's mind naturally gravitates toward a man who feels emotionally safe. Not safe as in weak, but safe as in unshakable. Emotional insecurity is loud. It reveals itself in constant texting, fast reactions, overthinking, and fear. Emotional security is quiet, calm, and stable. It shows itself through patience, confidence, and the ability to let things unfold on their own. When you stop texting and remain emotionally grounded, you communicate something powerful without words. Emotional security comes from knowing who you are. When your self-worth isn't tied to her responses, her silence doesn't threaten you. Instead of seeking reassurance, you give yourself reassurance. Instead of panicking, you stay steady. Women can sense emotional steadiness. It's a form of strength that most men never develop. A man who can sit with his emotions without acting out gains respect automatically. People think about those who are hard to emotionally disturb. Why? Because emotional security creates mystery. Not confusion, but depth. She starts to wonder what keeps you so calm. She wonders why you're not chasing. She wonders what gives you such confidence. Your emotional restraint becomes interesting because it's uncommon. and her curiosity becomes the beginning of her thinking about you. When you're emotionally secure, you don't seek control, you seek clarity. You don't force outcomes, you let them reveal themselves. This mindset makes you more attractive than any text message could, because women, even strong and independent ones, naturally respect emotional composure. It feels safe. It feels masculine. It feels trustworthy. Stoicism teaches that emotions are tools, not masters. When you master your inner world, your outer world begins to respond to you. And when you stop texting from a place of insecurity and start living from a place of emotional strength, you occupy her thoughts, not because you demanded space in her mind, but because you earned it. Number 8, show that your standards guide your decisions. A woman thinks about a man who has standards, not verbal standards, but lived standards. When you stop texting, not as a tactic, but because you refuse to force connections, you demonstrate self-respect. Standards separate you from the crowd. Most men accept breadcrumbs, tolerate disrespect, and abandon their values just to keep a woman interested. A Stoic man never does that. He lets his principles guide him, even when it costs him something emotionally. When you have standards, your silence sends a different message. It doesn't say, "I'm insecure." It says, "I don't chase things that don't match my energy." It says, "I value myself, with or without your attention." It says, "I won't fight for a place in someone's life if the place isn't offered willingly." This depth of self-respect is attractive because it's rare. It's also memorable. A woman will think about the man who didn't crumble just because she wasn't immediately available. Standards also change how you behave around women. You become selective. You don't respond to disrespect. You don't tolerate inconsistent behavior. You don't participate in emotional games. You walk away from anything that threatens your peace. Not dramatically, not angrily, just calmly. And that calm exit leaves a trace in her mind that's hard to erase. She remembers that you didn't beg. She remembers that you didn't cling. She remembers that you acted like a man who respects himself. Women often think about the men they couldn't easily shake, the men who didn't fold when tested. And yes, sometimes women test you without realizing it. They test your emotional control, your confidence, your boundaries. When you stop texting and remain firm in your values, you show that you're not controlled by emotion or desire. You live by principle. Stoicism teaches that standards protect your soul. When you live by high standards, you create gravity. And gravity makes people orbit your presence, even when your phone stays silent. Number 9, become the source of calm in her chaotic world. A woman will always think about the man who made her feel calm. Not entertained, not impressed, not excited calm. Calmness is a rare experience in today's world. Most people bring stress, uncertainty, and emotional intensity. A Stoic man brings peace, clarity, and steady energy. When you're not texting, the memory of your calmness becomes stronger in her mind. She compares it to the chaos around her, and the contrast makes you unforgettable. Calm energy comes from self-mastery. You don't react to small things. You don't rush to prove yourself. You don't get triggered by delays or mixed signals. You operate slowly, intentionally, with presence. When she's used to men who overreact or chase or pressure her, your calmness feels refreshing. It feels like relief, and relief is addictive. Even without texting, your presence lingers because calmness ties to emotional safety. She feels like she can breathe around you. She feels understood, not judged. She feels that your energy doesn't demand anything from her. This is the type of man a woman remembers when she's stressed or overwhelmed. She thinks about the one who wasn't chaotic, the one who didn't burden her, the one who brought emotional clarity. Your calmness also makes your silence more powerful. Most men disappear out of anger or fear. You disappear out of peace. You're not punishing her. You're not playing games. You're simply living calmly. And that calm absence makes her reflect. It makes her wonder if she misread your depth. It makes her curious about how you stay so composed. Stoicism teaches that tranquility is the goal of life. Be the man whose presence is peace, and she will think about you even when you say nothing at all. Number 10. Let your mystery grow naturally through discipline. Mystery is not about hiding. It's not about acting distant. Mystery grows naturally when a man has a life that is not easily visible, predictable, or simple. When you're not texting constantly, a woman begins to wonder what you're doing. But the key is that your life must actually contain depth. Depth creates natural mystery, and mystery pulls attention. A Stoic doesn't reveal everything. He reveals only what is necessary. He speaks with purpose. He acts with intention. He lives with discipline. Discipline itself creates mystery because disciplined men are rare. When she knows you're not wasting time, she becomes curious about how you spend it. When she knows you're focused, she becomes curious about your goals. Your silence grows more interesting because your life has layers she hasn't discovered. Mystery also grows when a man has an identity outside of romance. When your world isn't centered around her, when you have passions, philosophies, ambitions, and inner strength, you naturally become harder to read. Not confusing, just deep. And deep men stay on a woman's mind because depth makes her feel like there's more to learn, more to see, more to uncover. Not texting becomes a reflection of your inner world. You're not silent because you're empty. You're silent because you're full of purpose, full of discipline, full of structure. This fullness creates an aura that lingers. She feels it even when you're gone. She wonders what drives you. She wonders what shaped you. She wonders why you move differently from other men. Stoicism teaches, be rarely seen, but always remembered. A man with inner discipline and quiet depth becomes unforgettable without sending a single text. A woman doesn't think about you because you chase her, pressure her, or try to force your presence into her life. She thinks about you when your absence feels meaningful, when your energy is steady, your standards are firm, and your life continues with purpose. You become unforgettable not by demanding attention, but by living in a way that naturally earns it. A Stoic man understands that true influence comes from within. The more you master yourself, the less you need from others, and the more they feel drawn to you. If she thinks about you, good. If she doesn't, your path remains the same. Keep growing, keep rising, keep becoming someone you respect when you look in the mirror. That is the real victory, because the goal was never to control her thoughts. The goal was to build a life so grounded, so disciplined, and so meaningful that anyone who crosses your path remembers it. And when you live like that, you don't have to text a matter. Your presence speaks for you, even in silence. Stay focused, stay calm, stay untouchable,